Hey everyone, it's Lens Addict here, and today I've got with me the Dyson Gen 5 Detect and the Dyson V10, and we're going to be comparing them and reviewing them and seeing what's similar, what's different, what's better, and what's worse. So let's get started. So to start off, we'll just look at the tools that come in the box and the differences between the two. So on the Gen 5 Detect, you get a lot more tools and they have new features that you don't get on the V10. But one of the similar tools is this tool here, the anti-tangle turbine. It's pretty much identical other than color differences between the two. And this tool here, which comes with the V10, and it's pretty much the exact same tool on the Gen 5 Detect. But some of the differences are that the crevice tool on the V10 is a bit shorter and it doesn't do any swiveling. So on this one, on the Gen 5 Detect, it actually rotates for angled use if you need to do that. It also has a little thing on the end, and it's also slightly narrower, but it's only just noticeable. So that's just something to keep in mind. It also comes, the Gen 5 Detect also comes with a second kind of small pipe cleaning tool, which kind of extends and fits into the pipe here, which the V10 does not have. So we'll just clip that in and I'll show you how that works. So that goes into here like this and clips in. And now it's like a built-in tool that you can have that you don't get on the V10. So that's kind of handy. Some other tools. This brush is basically the same, but on the it's a bit smaller on the Gen 5. But the other thing to notice is that on the Gen 5 it has a light, or has a laser, I should say, which helps you see dust. And this one does not have a laser. So I'll show you what that laser looks like. So this is what the laser can see. My floor is actually quite clean, so it's not the best demonstration. I might go somewhere where I think, oh, here's something on the ground. As you can see, it really lights it up, makes it very obvious where it is. All the dust and stuff. So that's pretty cool. The V10 does not have that, and I'll show you what the V10 looks like and sounds like. So the V10 also is a different design of activation, so it's a trigger, and it's a bit louder than the Gen 5. The Gen 5 does not have a trigger, and instead you push a button on the back here. As you can hear, it's quite a bit quieter. But this is what cleaning without the light looks like. Personally, I think the light's cool, but it's a bit of a gimmick. But the loudness difference is quite noticeable. With the this one is much louder. The V10 is much louder for the same performance setting. Because this vacuum cleaner, the Gen 5, doesn't have a trigger, it enables new ways of cleaning. Like I'll show you, we'll put on eco just so it's quiet. You can basically have a pipe, and you could use it like this if you're cleaning a car, that kind of thing. Kind of extension pipe. So that's quite handy to have. You don't get that on the V10. And even if you did get this on the V10, so let's attach this to the V10, it's not very easy to use it because you've got to pull the trigger. So it's kind of difficult. One hand has to be on that trigger while the other hand has to be on that thing here, which I can't do while I'm recording. But just keep that in mind, the differences there. One of the main tools that you might be using is the carpet cleaning tool. So they actually look kind of similar, but they are not. This one is much better. So this one has hair removal vanes, And some older Dyson V10s don't have the hair removal vanes either. Thankfully, they've brought them over to this one, the V10, which is nice. So at least you get the hair removal, so it kind of self-cleans hair. But you can customize something you can't do on the V10. You can customize the gate, so that enables, basically, if you have really thick carpet, you can set it to this setting, and it won't dig down into the carpet because the suction will be allowed to come through here. But if you have carpet that's thin and you want it to really suck heaps, you can go like that, and now it really grips onto the carpet. The other thing is this rubber thing on the back somehow helps it clean really well, and I found that combined with the increased suction power of the Gen 5 Detect, that this is better than this one. But it is heavier, and heavier is something that this vacuum cleaner is much worse at, because in every way it is heavier. And to test that, we'll put it on the scale. So let's just wake up the scale. So here's how much the Gen 5 Detect weighs without any accessories. That doesn't seem right. I think it weighs more than that. No, let's just calibrate the scale. This scale might not be accurate enough to see. Yeah, I don't think it weighs only 2.25. I think it weighs more than that. But let's just put this one on the scale to see the difference. Maybe that is accurate. 1.7 versus 2.25. But let's add the accessories, and that's when the difference is quite apparent. So once the accessories are added, like the brush, this weighs around 3.5 kilos. So 3.5 kilos, which is really quite heavy for a vacuum cleaner. The V10 is much lighter, so we'll just show the differences. The Dyson V10 weighs 2.6 kilos with all its brushes and everything. So yeah, that's almost a kilo difference between the two. Just to keep that in mind when you're using them. This accessory comes with the Dyson V10, and I love it. It's a dusting brush that self-cleans. So when you need to clean, you just lift it up, go like this, and it cleans itself, which is really handy. And I wish this came with the Dyson V10. And I'm sure you could buy this accessory separately, but they're probably quite expensive. Thankfully, they do mount on the V10, and you can use them on the V10. So that's kind of nice. So now let's have a look at the sound levels between these two vacuum cleaners. The Gen 5 Detect is actually much quieter than the V10, which surprised me because the Gen 5 Detect has much more suction. So let's have a look. So we're just going to use the Apple Watch decibel meter, and we'll start off with the Dyson Gen 5. And we'll start it off on Eco. So that's what Eco sounds like. And we'll see what that sounds like on this one. So we're just going to use my foot to activate it, just so that it's the same distance away as this one, as the Gen 5. So here's what the V10 sounds like on Eco. So as you can see, it's quite a bit louder. Now we're going to put them both to medium, and we'll compare the sound levels on medium. So it looks like the Gen 5 Detect, and it sounds like the Gen 5 Detect sounds about the same decibel wise as the V10 on normal mode. So the V10 on Eco. So let's listen to the V10 on normal now. I'm just gonna use my foot because of the trigger. So it is a bit louder, It has much more of a high pitch noise to it. So now we're going to test both vacuums on the boost setting. So let's have a look at that. So that's the Gen 5 Detect. And now we'll try the V10. I think the V10 is actually going to be louder despite it having less suction. So as you can see, despite the Dyson V10 having much less suction, it is much louder than the Dyson Gen 5 Detect. So that's something to keep in mind. I find on eco mode, the Gen 5 Detect is very quiet, probably one of the quietest cordless vacuum cleaners I've ever used. You could totally use it at night and you wouldn't disturb your neighbors or anything like that. So pretty cool. Whereas the V10 is a little bit louder on eco, still okay, but it's not as quiet, that's for sure. And it just continues all the way through. It's just a little bit louder. Another thing to consider is that the battery on the Gen 5 is replaceable, and the battery will charge outside of its, like it'll charge on its own. So if I get this charger and I plug it in over here just on its own, it will charge without the vacuum cleaner needing to be there, which is really handy. This Dyson V10 on the other hand, you don't get that option. So you have to, if you want to change the battery, you've got to undo these screws, and it's just not designed to be swapped out like it is on this Dyson. I must say, this is very light without the battery. I think the battery is a lot of the weight on this thing. Something to keep in mind though is the charge time on this Dyson Gen 5 Detect is very long. I found it to be around 4 to 5 hours, which is just way too long, especially if you use it on boost for like 8-10 minutes and then all of a sudden you've got to wait half the day to use it again. The Dyson V10 isn't amazing. It takes about 3.5 hours, but I found, that's still a lot better than 5 hours. So kind of disappointing that the charger seems to be the same rate despite the battery getting bigger. I guess that's what's happening. So there's another really cool feature that the Gen 5 Detect has that the Dyson V10 does not have, and it's in the name, the Detect. So the Gen 5 can detect dirt, and it uses that to adjust the suction up or down depending on how much dirt there is, which is pretty cool. So I'll show you what that looks like. So here is the auto mode, and we'll just start it. And as we go over more dirt, you'll hear the suction power increase and go back down. So it kind of intelligently adjusts the suction power. You can also see live on the screen as it detects dirt as you're vacuuming. And at the end of the vacuum, it'll show you how much it detected of everything. While the V10 does not have it, so it'll just stay the same. So much louder. Can't believe. So here's the Gen 5 Detect on the different modes. It still seems to adjust the suction even on boost, as you can hear. This is much noisier than the one on the V10 though, the suction head. I really don't like this big dock that the Gen 5 Detect comes with. It's handy to like put all the accessories onto it and that stuff, but I just can't imagine having this in my living room and showcasing to everyone that I have this Dyson vacuum cleaner. I'd much rather just stick it in the cupboard and plug it in over there and not be showcasing all of my vacuum cleaner, you know, in display. So I don't like this. I'm sure some people will love it, but I often see these on Marketplace being sold because people don't want them. So I don't think it's very good. I don't think it's needed. It takes up a lot of space. So to sum up, of course, the Gen 5 Detect wins. It's much better, but there are pros and cons of each. So let's dive into that. So on the Gen 5 Detect, which I have over there, the battery life is better. The pros, much better battery life, more accessories, newer accessories that are more capable, better suction. The Gen 5 Detect is great if you want to replace, you know, use it as your main vacuum cleaner. And I think most people do. Most people are not buying this as a secondary vacuum cleaner like they were in the early days of Dyson cordless vacuum cleaners. They used to use it as a kind of supplement to their main vacuum cleaner. The runtime on the Gen 5 Detect is higher, but unfortunately, the battery life charging time is much higher too. 5 hours versus around 2.5 to 3 on the V10. Some of the cons of the Gen 5 Detect over the Dyson V10 is that the weight is really high. I'm like pretty tall and I'm relatively strong, and I don't like how heavy it is. So I can't imagine how someone who's like 5 foot and small and not very strong and old and elderly is gonna like it. I think they're gonna be like, this is way too heavy. They won't like that. So not a fan of the weight increase. The cost as well, if that's something you want to take into account. Gen 5 Detect, well, I got it on sale for about $1,000, but they usually go for about 1.5, 1.3 grand, which is a lot of money. The V10, you can commonly get it on sale for like $500, half the price. And it's not half as bad. It is, you know, it's lighter as well. The V10, Dyson V10 is much lighter, much more enjoyable to use. The trigger you may or may not like. Yeah, just keep in mind that the trigger is can be very annoying depending on what you're trying to achieve. So yeah, I prefer the button on the back. And the screen is kind of handy as well on the Dyson Gen 5 Detect. Having a screen that shows you how much time you got left is great, because on the V10 you're just guessing how long have I got. But you also get the screen on the Dyson V11 and above, so it's not just the Gen 5 Detect that has the screen. But other than that, a lot of the features are the same. The way that you empty it, the accessories, you can buy all of the accessories that come with the new one, with the Gen 5, sorry, the V10, but it's up to you if you actually want to go out and do that. So my recommendation is, if you got the money, just get the Gen 5 Detect. It's great. And if you're strong and you don't care about the weight, yeah, get the Gen 5 Detect. If you want to save money, you don't care about having a laser and automatic power adjustment and a time for the vacuum cleaner that it's, you know, how long it's going to run flat. You just want something a bit lighter, not as powerful, but a little bit louder, but much cheaper. Get the Dyson V10. Hope you all enjoyed this video. So it was not sponsored by Dyson. I went out and bought all these things myself. So yeah, let me know in the comments below if you have any thoughts or questions. I can answer them. I'll do my best to answer them. And I'll see you all in the next video. Lens Addict out.